Welcome back, consumers. I'm Altari, the professional gamer, and this is the second episode of our three-part Fresh Start New Character series, where we go through all of the experiences that you will as well once you make it into Pax Dei. And in this episode, we have already found our homestead. We do a little bit of building, and we're going to go and craft our first weapon, a bow. There's a lot of things that we're doing in this episode, talking about a lot of crafting and doing all of that, so hopefully you enjoy, and we will be producing a lot more content when it comes to Pax Dei, so if you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like if this is the type of content that you enjoy, and share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in Pax Dei. Now I'm going to hand it off to Altari to get this thing started. Today we are going to be continuing our build of this amazing homestead plot. We are also going to make a fletching station, get some arrows, make a bow, and go hunting. This is all really important to do because gathering leather is going to be important if we want to make any kinds of gear. We will also start transferring our crafting benches and our storage chests into our house, but for today we're just going to be working on a floor plan, so we're going to go ahead and get started with that. You can see that we're at Paxian's Mount Pax Ian here, and to start off we are just going to continue placing some stone foundations. Now, one thing that I really like to do when I am building is just make a floor plan first so we can kind of see where things lay. And one of the big things for Pax Dei specifically that I have learned in my experience playing so far is the end game for builders, believe it or not, is actually roofing. So if you're placing a bunch of stuff, you have a really cool floor plan, you think you're ready to go, and then you start building your structure super tall, it looks super awesome, and now it's time to place the roof on. The last thing that you want to have happen to you is you can't actually finish your build because guess what? The roof doesn't fit. And that has to do a lot with the structure and stability system in Pax Dei. So it is something that even I am still learning after over 300 hours playing the game, and it's going to be something that continually evolves as the building system develops too. So right here you can see that we're just placing some more stone foundations. I did some gathering while we were away, and looks like that is about as far out as we are going to go. And like I said, we are going to be using this hut building style here, which just requires a lot of rough wood beams, a couple of rough wood planks, and some stone as well. So that is pretty much all of the resources that we're going to have to gather. It's a relatively easy set of building blocks that we're going to be able to work with. It's a lot easier than some of these others that require strong wooden planks, a lot of pegs, and clay. So if you're a new player and you're only making a house by yourself and you're looking to just get something down pretty quick, huts are a really cool set of tiles to be working with, and they also are relatively cheap. So that's the one that we're going to be going with. And I do like to give a little bit of asymmetry to the builds that I do. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to make a cool little corner piece for our build. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm using the scroll wheel while I'm on a pivot point for this kind of central area, and I'm placing the I'm placing the triangle building foundations for this kind of effect that we're going to be going with here. And then I am also going to try and kind of connect dots right here if we can. That would be great. Perfect. Build this like that. And you can see right here, there's that faint little white line that is near the edge of our plot. And we're actually building on the other side of it. The important thing to note is that the anchor point for building is where this little cylindrical yellow indicator is that is showing us where we're looking at. And as long as your pivot point for your building block that you're trying to place is in your plot, you most of the time are going to be able to get a little bit on the outside of that build, and that's just currently how it works. That might change somewhat in the future. So that looks like a pretty decently sized set of foundation that we're going to work with, and we'll look at this from the front here as well. All right, perfect. So we're going to try and do a 2-story little hovel forest hut type thing, and we are going to go ahead and place some stone walls for a little tower that will have a spiral staircase leading up to the second floor. Unfortunately, these stone walls are actually really cheap to make, with only 1 nice rock and 2 clay required. We'll probably be able to get all of the stone walls down for this little tower staircase that we're going to be building. No. Perfect. That'll be a really nice spiral that we're going to be able to build there. Would look pretty cool from the outside looking in as well. Let's just make sure that we place a little central pivot point here for our staircase in the future. And like I said, you always want to be looking into what the foundation is doing here as well, because you need to be able to have your roofing work when you get all the way up to the top. And we'll probably actually pull this down one. It looks like it's a little bit higher than the rest of the build. So drag that down. We'll have ceilings that are going to cover up a lot of this stuff too. So that is our little floor plan, and we will now start getting into building out the rest of the hut. In order to do that, we're going to need a lot of wood, and we're going to go ahead and refine that wood as well. So let's just go out into the forest and hopefully don't run into any boars. And I'll see y'all back here once we've got a lot of wood ready to craft with. All right, and we are back. We have gathered a decent amount of wood for our processing needs here, and we're gonna go ahead and take a look at what resources we're exactly gonna need in order to get some walls up and how many walls we're gonna need. So we got 6 rough beams and 6 rough planks of wood in order to build this bottom floor wall here. And we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, pull this out. We're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be bigger. 5, 6, 7, 8. And now there is going to be a little bit of a consideration that we're going to have to make here, because we did extend it by another short wall. And essentially what we can do is at the very top, we do have some stone walls, which will be able to fit in pretty nicely here. But we might have a better solution as well. And whenever you're in doubt, a porch is always a great thing to have for your home. So this might actually end up becoming a stairwell that goes down so you can access it from the forest. All right, so it looks like we've got about 32 walls that we're going to have to make by 6. We're going to have to make a lot of rough wood beams. So I'm going to make sure that we have all of the wood that we possibly could need in our inventory. And we're going to get to crafting some wood beams. So we're able to make 43, which is definitely going to help us towards our goals. I will see you all back here after we finish crafting. All right, so now that we have finished crafting all of those rough beams of wood, we are going to convert at least half of them into rough planks of wood. And it actually looks like we'll do more like a quarter, so we'll go through about 10 of these. I will see you all back when we're done. All right, so now we have finished crafting all of those rough planks of wood. We do happen to have some extra beech sapwood here, so we're going to go ahead and use that to create some pegs, because we will need pegs eventually anyways, so we might as well use some now. And we are good to go back to building our little hut. I'm going to grab some of the rocks here that we have and then put our pegs back where they belong. And all right, let's get to building some of these walls. And while we're making all of these as well, it is important to note that when we start building the second story, we are going to have to place some stone pillars or some support beams on this bottom floor in order to be able to support the ceiling tiles as we get up there. So that is going to be something important for us to consider in the future. And it looks like we have gone through all of the rough beams of wood. So we're going to go back into the forest, gather some more wood, come back and finish off this bottom floor. I'll see you all in a bit. All right, and now we have finished building all of our beams, and we will continue with this structure here. One of the things that you might have noticed while we were going through that little crafting montage as well is that as you level up, you start getting less and less experience for the crafting that you're doing, and that obviously is depending on the level as well. And it looks like we are going to need some more rough planks here. But also another thing to know as well, for those of you who are going to be doing crafting for more resource intensive things as well, these rough planks, for every one beam that we are creating, we are getting 3 rough planks out. So if you were to fail something that is creating multiple of whatever the output is, even if you fail, depending on how far into the success area you are, you will actually be rewarded with a partial amount of the full ingredients. So it doesn't really necessarily apply to your building skill as much, because as it stands right now, most of these are pretty easy resources to gather and to therefore refine. But if you're talking about things like blacksmithing or armoring or leatherworking even, those are very resource intensive, and they're not necessarily the easiest resources to get your hands on either. So any type of reward that you can get, even from a fail, is still going to go a long way in the future. We'll go ahead and stop that construction right there. And we have a couple more rough beams of wood to place as well. And remember, we said that we were going to make this into kind of a little porchway type thing as well. So we'll see how far we can place. Looks like that'll be fine. Go. Cool. So we'll leave that corner a place to actually get a door in there at some point. And another thing that we have to consider, obviously, is all of these walls have windows. So we're going to now go back and fill in some of these windows with the more hut wall type. And I just wanted to put all of the windows there just so we could get a glimpse of what type of views we can possibly get from here. So we'll go and take out a couple of these, place them appropriately. Here. This one there. Over. There. Over. There. Cool. So it looks like we now have a lot of room in here to place some of our crafting benches. So let's go ahead and transfer some of those things over to here really quickly. And the nice thing about Pax Dei, at least right now, is that all of the resources that you get when you... The nice thing is that all of the resources that you spend to build something, you can get them fully back when you destroy them. So in order to destroy something, as you kind of saw me doing earlier, you just middle click when you have that object selected. So we're going to go ahead and take the wood chopping block and that basic workbench, and we're going to come over here and place them inside of our structure now. In order to do that, we need to go over to crafting, and we will still keep the wood right here, and then we'll put our basic workbench right here as well. Now, an important thing for us to consider too is if we really even need that right now. And we already got our pickaxe from it, and we know that we need to craft a bow so that we can start getting on the hunting game, get some of those deer, and start refining some leather. So we're going to go ahead and replace our basic workbench with a fletching station, and we can already see what we are going to need in order to build our bow. And for the rest of the episode, that is what we are going to be doing. So in order to do that, we are going to need some coarse linen string, though not too much. And then we will also need some rough leather bands and a long rough wood stock and some sinew. The sinew is what we are going to get from animals when we harvest them, and then the rough leather bands we are going to create after we refine some animal hide, and the coarse linen string is what we're going to get when we refine some flax at a loom. So there are a couple of things that we're going to need for the rest of this episode. The first thing is going to be a tanning rack. So we can see tanning racks are right here. And in order to make those, all we need is some long rough wood stock and some short rough wood stock. Additionally, some reeds, which we actually gathered in last episode. And then the spinning wheel here is just going to require some rough planks of wood, as well as some more short rough wood stocks. And we already made some pegs for that too. And after that, the only other thing that we are going to need is a basic leather working station, which is going to require some rough beams of wood. So we're going to go ahead and gather some of that wood, and I will see you all back after we have gathered all of the resources we need to finish off making a bow. All right, and here we are back again. We have gotten a lot of different stuff here. We killed a bear, we killed a badger, and we are on our ways to being able to make a bow. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is get our tanning rack up and ready, and in order to do that, we are going to need about 6 of these long, rough wood stalks. So we're going to go ahead and start crafting those right now. And then we're also going to need some short, rough wood stalks too. Go ahead and get those crafted. Then we are also going to need another rough beam of wood in order to be able to craft some of these stations too. Now we should also get our reeds, which are right here. Go ahead and put that rough animal hide in our inventory too. And we'll transfer some of this stuff over since we don't need it right now. All right. So let's go ahead and place some more of these crafting stations. Now, obviously, tanning racks, they do belong outside, so they can tan appropriately in the sunlight. Go ahead and place that there. And we'll take a look at this real quick, too. So you can see that we have a couple of different recipes here. And what happens is when you get a hide, you're going to have to turn it into something that's more processable. So this is a way that you can get different hides from different animals and be able to combine them together in order to start generating something. And we can see right here that we are going to need a additional rough animal hide in order to make 3 large rough animal hides. And the thing that we are looking for here is to make some rawhide generic leather. And the reason for that is because we need to make some leather bands. So Pax Dei has a very intricate crafting system, and there are a lot of interconnected pieces. And that's why I am creating a playlist of advanced crafting guides to help all of you resync and find out exactly what you need and where to go and how to actually navigate it, because there are a lot of interconnected pieces that are going to play into Pax Dei's economy in the future, and we get to test all of that stuff out now. So the next thing that we need to make is going to be a leather working station, and the reason for that is because we are going to eventually create some leather bands. So we'll go ahead and place that here, and we're going to take a look and see what rough leather bands are going to require. And it looks like in order to make 2 of them, we need 1 rawhide generic leather. And over here, we can see that we need 4 large rough animal hides in order to make 4 rawhide generic leather. And as long as we can get 1 more rough animal hide, we will be able to make 3 additional large rough animal hides as well. So we have just the right number that we need in order to be able to make this rawhide generic leather and make our bow. So now we are going to go and find one last very unfortunate animal to collect their hide from. We're going to go ahead and teleport over to a shrine, and that teleports us back over to this location here, and we are going to go looking for some animals. I think where we're going to go is over by the river. There was that boar that attacked us in last episode. So the animal spawns do spawn back in similar areas. So if you find a good location that has a lot of deer or has a lot of bears or badgers or something like that, you can definitely use that information in the future in order to find a good spot to gather these resources in the future. If I recall correctly, the boar was just down here. once we kill him and gather his hide, we should have enough to start our bow making process. The only other thing that we are going to need to start getting is some sinew, so hopefully he drops some of that as well. There's a rabbit. We might as well go after the rabbit as well. Poor bunny. Poor bunny. Come here. Come here, bugs. Sorry. So sorry. There we go. We got some sinew. We also did get some small, raw, rough animal hide, but we aren't going to be able to use that for our purposes. Fortunately, it does look like we got a couple of rabbits and a boar over here, and we will be able to get, hopefully, everything that we need from all of these animals. And this is going to lead me to get attacked by the boar. So things might get out of hand here, but we should be able to be okay. Looks like I only aggroed the one boar. There's our rough animal hide that we needed. And then this boar over here should give us the last sinew. We'll go ahead and kill the rabbit as well, just to make sure that we have enough sinew as well. Go. Yeah, that rabbit's gone. All right, so now we can go ahead and teleport back to our base. And this is actually a great time to remind everyone for this episode that Pax Dei is currently in alpha, and there are a lot of bugs that can happen. This is actually a pretty common bug if you place your plot on top of a mountain or a set of rocks. And basically what's happening is the game is trying to teleport you to a flat surface that exists in your plot, and it looks at it from the direction that your character is teleporting from. So we're all the way down at the lake over there, and that put us in a trajectory that landed us in the rock as opposed to above ground where we need to be. So in order to fix that, all you have to do is teleport 1 or 2 or 3 times in order to get back to where you should lay, and there it is. So that is a really easy bug fix, but as always, you should definitely report the bug to make sure that the devs know what they are having to deal with and fix. And in order to do that, all you have to do is press F8 and then fill out a bug report. I've filled out many of these bug reports for that specific bug, so I'm sure the developers know, but it is always important to make sure that you're submitting your feedback and submitting your bug reports so that they can make sure that the game is as good as it can be. So the next thing that we are going to do, since we have enough of the rough animal hide, is we're going to go ahead and start that refining process. Now, the tanning rack is a passive craft. Is a passive crafting table, so you don't actually have to work that, and you can have as many of them as you need in order to be manufacturing that. That's different than an active crafting table, which requires your character to actively be standing there. And for those of you who are wondering, multiple people can actually use these tables, so that is a great thing if you're playing with a group of players. So the next thing that we are going to make here is going to be a spinning wheel. In order to do that, we are going to have to get 10 short rough wood stalks and some more pegs, which means we are going to need a little bit more wood. So let's go ahead and gather that, and I will see you all in a bit. All right, and we are back. We have gathered all of the wood that we need to make the spinning wheel, and this is what we are going to use in order to get our coarse linen string. So we'll go ahead and check out what we need for that. So coarse linen string does require flax fiber, and I will show you all now where you can get that. It is scattered all the way throughout a lot of different biomes in Pax Dei, but a really good place to find them is actually down in the Riverlands, where we have a lot of open kind of fields. You can also find them pretty abundantly in more mountainous terrain. So if you're up in like some windswept steppes or something like that, where there's a lot of more rocky terrain, like this kind of area over here, then you will be able to find a lot of flax in those areas as well. Before we head out, we are going to go ahead and check this tanning rack to see where we are, and we are going to wait for this to finish so that we can start our rawhide generic leather processing as well. All right, so we just finished that craft, and you can see that now we have the large rough animal hide down in the collect items bin here. And another important thing to note is that this station is currently listed as private. So depending on what your plot's permissions is set to, it's going to set your crafting stations to that as well. So if it's set to clan, then your clanmates are going to be able to use it. If it's set to public, then anyone can use it. And then if it's then obviously if it's set to private, then only you can use it. So we are going to go ahead and collect those items, and now you can see that we have our 4 large rough animal hides right there, and we needed the rawhide generic leather, not the inferior generic leather. So let's make sure that we click that correctly, and now we have that up and queued, ready to go. So the only other thing that we are going to need in order to be able to craft this bow is going to be that coarse linen string. And in order to get that, we are going to have to collect some flax so we can refine it at this spinning wheel over here. So in order to do that, we are going to go ahead and teleport off to a shrine again, utilize that TP mechanic as much as we can, and we're going to be looking for some fiber. Now, this might take you a little while to do if you don't know what you're looking for, and that is totally okay, because Pax Dei is quite a beautiful game, and you never know what you're going to find as you're exploring out in the world either. So this area that we're at, though, is probably going to be a pretty good spot to spot some flax as well, because we're a little higher up. Now, what we're looking for is a red, orange-ish looking plant, and typically they do spawn around these fields. So we're going to go ahead and run around, and we're going to look for those, and I'll grab you when we do. All right, so here we are. I have found some flax. It turns out that there was actually some down right next to where our homestead has been placed. And here you can see what the flax looks like very clearly. Like I said, it's that orangish kind of fibrous looking plant, and they typically spawn in areas that are more sunny, it appears, though you might be able to find them in forested areas as well. But we are going to go ahead and gather these up so that we can craft some coarse leather string. These are also used in order to build some of the straw-based crafting tiles, straw-based building tiles. So if you're looking to make a more thatch roof style build, then flax is going to be something that you're going to use to craft that as well. Now, it looks like we definitely got enough in order to craft our coarse linen string, so we're going to go ahead and teleport right back up to our plot. All right, so here we are at the spinning wheel, and we're going to go ahead, and all we need is 2 coarse linen string, but we're going to go ahead and craft as many as we can, because eventually we are going to be using the coarse linen string to make a lot of our clothing and to make higher tiers of linen string as well. So it's always good to get this XP meter going up as quickly as we can. A pointer that I do have when it comes to doing flax processing and tailoring is kind of twofold. Firstly, you actually gain skill levels in your tailoring ability in order to spin coarse linen string and the more advanced linen strings as well. So it's actually a really useful mechanism to be able to craft high tier clothing items as well. So typically what I have done is if I know that I'm going to be taking a step away from the keyboard for an extended period of time, I am going to just gather up a large amount of flax, and I am going to process that into coarse linen string while I'm AFK and just letting that kind of take its time to do. A full inventory of flax is going to yield you, as long as you don't fail on any of them, approximately 206 coarse linen string, and then that will also take you about 40 to 45 minutes to do. And it is a very grindy system, but again, you are also developing a trade skill while you are doing this, so that's a really nice thing to have. We are grabbing all of the string. Bum, bum, bum. I'm already because I have to sit here and craft more string. Here's a good opportunity to make this not with some bark inventory. All right, so now we have finished making all of the coarse linen string, and that means in order to make this bow, the only thing that we need to make now is a long rough wood stock, and then finish off with our leather bands. And the leather bands might be a little difficult for us to craft, but we are going to go ahead and send it, because that is what we do. We are Pax Ian, and Pax Ian is no more beholden to the horrible RNG that could fall upon anyone in Pax Dei. We're going to go ahead and let this fast forward here and finish off the craft. All right, so that tanning rack has now finished making the rawhide generic leather that we are going to need to make those rough leather bands. So let's go ahead and go over to the leather working station and try to get this craft going. Here you can see the rough leather bands. It requires 1 in order to make 2, and we only need 3. So we're just gonna go ahead and send it and make sure that we get at least 3 for our bow. All right, looking good so far. And there it is. We actually got it on the first 2, which looks like we're not going to get it for the last one. But you can see there that we also got our one rough leather band for the 2 that we ended up failing. So we ended up with 6 total. That is great. And you can see that these are currently dropping on the ground when you fail it rather than getting put into your inventory. That is a bug as well that has been reported already. And the last thing that we need to do is make 1 long rough wood stock. So here that is. And then we are going to go and possibly be able to make our bow. Now, the important thing here that I always tell people is, especially when you have something that requires so many resources in order to craft, it is actually way better to try and level up your skill just a little bit in order to more so guarantee that you're going to successfully make your craft. So we're going to come over here, we're going to pick up our flint that we have, and we are going to craft some arrows really quick to see if we can improve our skill level enough to be able to worrylessly craft the starter bow. All right, so just like that, we are able to do 15 crafts with the fletching station to make some flint head arrows, and that and that improved our fletching skill up to level 3, which means that we at least have a better chance of being able to craft this bow. So let's go ahead and send it and make sure that we are good to go on this starter bow. And it looks like we successfully did it. I wasn't too worried about it because this is a relatively easy bow to craft, but we're going to go ahead and put that in our inventory. So we now have a bow. We have 30 arrows. We've done a lot of work on this homestead that we are building, and I am very excited to see what we're going to do next. And we actually have a lot of videos that are going over advanced crafting guides, how to do some blacksmithing, how to craft your first magical item, and this item is very much so a best in slot item for the early game, even going into the late game as you start exploring dungeons and all of that right now. This is an item that is going to help you out a lot, and we're going to have a video on that in our advanced guides tutorial playlist, so make sure that you check that out. We have links down below, and this is a series where we are going through all of our initial steps into the creation as Pax Ian. So thank you again for all of you who are joining. If you are interested in this type of content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like if this is the type of content that you enjoy, and share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in Pax Dei. Until next time, I'm Altari, the Professional Gamer.